take a moment and allow your eyes to close. Just allow yourself to fully arrive here in this moment. Allow the awareness to unhook itself from all of the chaos happening in the outside world. To unhook itself from the happenings, the drama, to unhook itself from the waves of thought pattern in the mind, the ups and downs of emotions and feeling states. Just unhook that mind. And bring it into connection with the breath. Bring that focus, the awareness, the attention. Bring it to the breath. And just allow that awareness to merge into the breath. Don't try to change the breath, but just allow the awareness to become one with the inhalations and exhalations. If the mind wanders, if you find yourself drifting into thought or getting hooked back again into sounds or sensations, just bring it back to the breath. Don't yell at yourself or tell yourself a story. Just gently, lovingly, bring the awareness back to the breath. If you find that the mind still wanders, you can add a gentle mantra to it. You can chant so on the inhalations and hum on the exhalations. So hum. It means I am that. I am one with the Creator and one with the creation. I am one with all. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. Press the palms of your hands against your closed eyes. Slowly open the eyes and lower the hands. Welcome to Satsang. It's wonderful to be back again. I've been out for the last week. Coming home is always such a blessing, and especially coming back to being able to be together again in Satsang. As always, will you hand me that? Thank you. Thank you so much. As always, we start with a question that's come in advance, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. How do you deal with envy and hate from others, from friends, and even from close relations? We don't have any control over someone else's emotional state, sadly. It would be really wonderful if we could dictate and control and change how people feel. Don't be angry. Calm down, right? How many times have we tried to say to somebody, calm down, stop being angry, don't be sad, right? We say these things, but has anybody ever actually stopped being sad because somebody said, don't be sad? I mean, think about when you were sad and people who say, oh, don't be sad. Does it make you think, oh, all right, okay, I won't be sad. You've said not to be. Or if you're really angry and the person you're angry at says, don't be angry, does that make you not angry? And of course, the worst is when people say, calm down, don't be stressed, right? That's when you get people saying, I am calm, So we don't have any control. Trying to control other people's emotional state is just an exercise in frustration and futility. What we have control over is ourselves. And so when someone is envious of us or hating us, it sparks in us upset, pain, hatred, anger. And that's the part we do have control over. So if someone around you is feeling envious, or if someone around you is feeling hate, what you've got to work on is how do you keep yourself clear? I mean, we just got out of the COVID pandemic. What did we do when we moved through the world in a place where people were potentially sick? What did we do? We wore masks. We stayed socially distant. We washed our hands. We, did the things that we were taught, we learned over the last several years to do to protect ourselves. You couldn't make somebody not sick, but you could make yourself not contract their sickness. You could keep yourself healthy, protect yourself. And it's really about the same thing. Our spiritual practices are actually about building our spiritual immunity. So I don't mean you have to stay separate from people or actually wear masks, but the way that we protect our spiritual immunity is with our meditation. A mask over our face isn't going to help. Spirituality is not about distancing yourself from people. It's about staying connected, but in a way where someone else's ignorance or ego waves of emotional state, anger, envy, fear, confusion, that they don't end up literally making you sick. Which is mostly what happens when somebody's angry or full of hate or full of envy. They make things really difficult for us. They're the people who are really difficult to be around, especially when they are colleagues, family members, and you've got to see them every day, work with them. The only way is to develop a really strong spiritual immune system through recognizing that you are not someone else's projections. If I sit over here and I say, oh, you are like this, you are like that, you are this, well, that's only going to impact you if you buy into my story. Then you get upset, then you fight back. But if you're walking down the street and there's somebody, or you're in a subway station or something like that where there's lots of people, and a lot of times you see people who are not in their right senses and they're kind of standing in a corner shouting and screaming. Now, if you're walking down a street or you're walking through a subway station and somebody is clearly not in their senses, and they're yelling, and you walk by and they say, "You are the evil witch of the West." Now, are you going to get all worked up about that? I mean, is it going to ruin your day? You realize, first of all, I'm not the evil witch of the West. Like, clearly the person is having some sort of psychotic episode. But what you're going to realize most importantly is what they're saying is about them, not about me. Doesn't matter what I look like, doesn't matter who I am. This person is in the middle of a hallucination in which what they are seeing is the wicked witch. I could have been anybody walking by. It's irrelevant. Their hallucination is showing them wicked witch of the West. But that's not about me. So I'm not going to get upset about it. I'm not going to lose my sleep or not be able to eat my food or need to go to therapy because some drunk or not in their senses person told me that I was the wicked witch. In the same way, when people in our lives who may not so obviously appear to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol or not in their right senses, when they lash stuff at us, we have to remember it's about them, it's not about us. They may not be actually drunk or on drugs, but they're certainly under the influence of ego, of ignorance, of fear, of their own illusion, their own sense of being not enough, that leads them to envy me for having more than they think they have, and just triggers their feelings of not enoughness. But it's not about you. And so whether it's a family member, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a drunk person or psychotic person on the street, you have to be clear. This isn't about me. It's about them. And so don't buy into it. Don't react. Maybe if you're, a spiritual person or practicing loving kindness, metta meditation, maybe as you walk by that person screaming at you, maybe you'll send them some loving kindness because you realize they're really suffering. And because you don't get triggered by what they've said, because you realize they're sick, you're able to send them energy of love. You're able to send them, may you be in peace. May you be healthy. May you be safe. Because we understand you are suffering. It's like if you walk by somebody who's coughing and sneezing and really sick. Well, first thing, you're going to want to make sure you don't catch it. But once you know you're safe, you're going to feel empathy, or at least sympathy for them. Bare minimum, some pity for them that they are suffering so much. So in the same way, when people are lashing out, realize it's because they are not well. They're in a state of dis-ease. Now, it may not be some diagnosable disease by medical textbooks or psychology textbooks, but they are definitely not in ease, in health. Because if we are, that's what we share. If I'm in a state of joy, I'm going to share joy. If what I'm sharing is hatred and envy, it's because that's what's brewing inside of me. Right? I mean, if you walk by somebody and they're sick and they throw up on you, or you pick up a baby who looks really cute but who hadn't yet been burped and the baby kind of pukes all over you. Well, It's not about you. It's about what that person has inside them. Whatever they have inside them is what's going to come out on top of you. Because they weren't well. Because something in them wasn't settled. And so it came out on you. So your task is twofold. Number one, first and foremost, protect yourself with your spiritual immunity, with your meditation, with your energy. We talk a lot in here about conscious energy, either receiving or transmitting, because we're always doing both, but we can very consciously also decide what we're going to do more of. So when you're in a time and a place that's deeply enriching and filling, you're in the Ganga Arati, you're on the banks of Ganga, you're in a beautiful hug with a loved one, you're smelling some beautiful flowers, you're in a beautiful, deep, meaningful conversation or connection, that's the time you open yourself and you want to just receive and receive beautiful energy. And then there's times when, to the extent possible, you want to turn the receiving off and turn on the transmission. And that's when you're going to be in places where you know the energy is not what you want to be receiving. It could be a really crowded subway car. It could be a family dinner. It could be a board meeting. But before you go into it, consciously realize, okay, this is my transmitting time. So we protect ourselves with meditation, with being conscious of our energy. And also in the same way with COVID, where we were told, 6 feet, give yourselves 6 feet. Typically a sneeze can't go that far, so if you're 6 feet away, you're safe. In the same way, there are sometimes people where really the best thing to do is just to see how distant you can become. Can't always do it, I know that, but to the extent possible, can you maintain a distance of some sort to protect yourself? And if you can't, then maintain that distance emotionally at least. If you can't maintain it physically, when you're with them, just make sure that you're constantly chanting your mantra, that you're doing something else with your energy, that the awareness is on your breath, you're chanting the mantra or reciting a prayer or an affirmation. And then the second part is to remember it's not about you, it's about them. And to the extent possible, offer them your love, offer them your kindness, your compassion, your empathy. Bare minimum, offer them your sympathy for the fact that they are suffering. And that's why they're essentially vomiting on you. So feel badly that they're not well, but do whatever you can to stay far enough away that you don't keep getting vomited on. And that power of your meditation will really protect you. It forms this energetic mask that really keeps anybody's stuff from impacting you. You're able to just see it. Oh yeah, that's their stuff. Oh yeah, they're like that. Okay. But it stops impacting us. Any questions that anyone here has? Okay, well then I'll take another one that's come in advance until there's one here. Why do people gossip? My mother-in-law is like a character from some TV show. She sits down and the first words out of her mouth are always something like, well, you won't believe what Neeraj said to your father yesterday. Or, can you believe what Ritu was wearing in a temple? If I sit back and just observe, it's really funny. But sometimes the gossip isn't this mild. Why do people do it? Well, we gossip for a lot of reasons. First of all, sadly, a lot of people are afraid of silence. And when they don't have anything else to say, there's always gossip. One of the real tragedies is that we see silence as empty. And there's that anxiety, oh my God, who's gonna say something, who's gonna say something? I should think of something to say. What if they don't say anything? Oh my God, they're gonna think I'm really boring. And so we sort of rack our brains for anything to fill that space. And a lot of times it's nonsense. Sometimes it's gossip, sometimes it's just nonsense chatter, sometimes it's oversharing. I mean, we kind of do anything to just fill the space. We also gossip because on some very deranged level, it makes us feel closer to the people we're talking to. That somehow if I say to you, oh, did you know what this one said? Oh, I couldn't believe it. What do you think? My God, she's the worst, right? Well, it creates this really false sense of closeness between us. That now we've got this sort of twosome huddle. But it's a very false and very shallow form of connection. Because it's grounded only on being negative about others. Which means after I tell you about this thing, I better think of something else to tell you so that we can stay connected. So that's another reason that people gossip, is for that sense of closeness. If I want to feel close to you, I may try to think of some kind of juicy thing to tell you or some kind of critique about someone else. Because for some, again, kind of deranged reason, it seems like a shortcut to us feeling close. And I think the third reason people gossip, I'm sure there's probably more, but 3 occur to me at the moment, is as a defense mechanism against themselves actually having to open and be real. Because if you take the case of the mother-in-law of the questioner, sitting down together, well, if she starts with just, oh my God, this one and that one and this one and that one, and you won't believe this and you won't believe that. Did you see this? Did you see that? Well, it fills up the space so that there's no necessity for the two of you to actually have to just sit in each other's presence. And sometimes when we are uncomfortable to be vulnerable, when we don't want to be vulnerable, we don't want to open up, we don't want the possibility that you might actually ask me how my day was, or ask me how I am and really want an answer, a real answer. Or God forbid, you might start to talk about something actually real and meaningful that would require me to open up and connect with you in a deep and vulnerable way. We just fill the space with shallowness. But satsang is always focused as much as we can on us and not on others. So rather than why do others gossip, let's look at what can we do, both to stop ourselves from engaging in useless, energy-wasting chatter, and also to get ourselves out of that situation if we find ourselves in it. So if you are a gossip, if you find yourself that you are doing it, it's okay. Don't hate yourself, don't feel badly. But ask yourself, why? Like, what's my impetus here? What was I feeling before I started telling that story? What was going on? Try to work backwards. Eventually you'll get to the place where you'll be able to catch yourself before you do it. But at least from now, at the end of the day, as you're doing your introspection or whenever you sit for contemplation, ask yourself, what was going on? What was the trigger that led me to suddenly start unnecessarily bad-mouthing this other person who really hadn't done anything to me, except maybe wore something that I didn't particularly like to a party, to the temple, God forbid, the same sari they wore last week. Like, they didn't do anything to me. What instigated me to start that? And really just ask yourself, was I feeling disconnected, alone, lonely? Was I looking for some false connection and grabbed onto that? Was there too much silence and I was feeling bored? Worried that there was nothing to fill the silence, nothing to fill the space, worried that the person would think I was boring and end the conversation. Or am I subconsciously protecting myself from being vulnerable? Am I closing myself off to that relationship, preventing myself from having to really open up? Ask yourself, what was I feeling? What did it do for me? And then as time goes by, as you find yourself doing it, even if you're in the middle of a sentence, just stop. Just stop. Check in. What's going on? Because we learn so much from these behaviors of ours, of what triggers us. And if you find yourself in a situation where someone else is gossiping, feel free to say, I'm so happy to be having a conversation with you. I'm so happy to be together, but I really try not to fill up my mind unnecessarily with gossip. Can we talk about something else? And just shift the conversation. Don't criticize the person. Don't say, my God, stop gossiping. You're driving me crazy. But just humbly suggest, ask them, can you talk about something else? Let them know you're trying to protect your very precious brain space. And slowly, slowly, people themselves may not necessarily stop gossiping, but at least they will stop gossiping to you. And if you don't necessarily want to say that, if you feel uncomfortable saying that, well, you can just try to shift the conversation. Shift it to something deeper. Next time your mother-in-law starts saying, my God, you won't believe this, just ask her, hey, how was your day? How was your day? Or begin by saying, God, you know what? I've been meaning to tell you. And share something. Share something deep, share something interesting. And just shift the conversation. Because just like we need to protect our physical immunity, our spiritual immunity, like we are careful about the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, we've got to be really careful about what we take in energetically. And gossip, especially negative gossip, being happy for someone, it's still gossip, but at least it's not negative. Oh my God, they look so great together. Aren't they so cute? Oh, I hope they get married. It's so sweet. It's still gossip. It's still unnecessary, but at least it's not filling you with negativity. You got to be really careful of your energy. Protect it. Take that into your hands, just like you wouldn't eat, junk food that someone gave you. Well, don't take in the junk conversation. Shift it. We'll end satsang here this evening. I have to go out to the banks of Ganga. You're welcome to join me. We're having a huge function with about 300-400 Rotarians who have come. And I'm supposed to be speaking to them in about 7 minutes. So I have to go down to the banks of Ganga. It's the large ghat just next to where we have Aarti. So if you'd like to join, you are welcome to join. If not, I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow for satsang. We will now be having our regular evening satsang at this time. If you didn't come in straight from the Ganga Aarti, we start usually right around 6:30, give or take a few minutes one way or the other based on how long the Aarti goes. But I always suggest join us for the Aarti if you can. It's so beautiful. And then just immediately after the Aarti, come in and we're together. And also I wanted to mention, for those who may not know or who may not necessarily be staying here, we also have yoga classes that are open to everyone. They are at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's here in this same hall from 7 to 8 in the morning. And what time in the afternoon? 3 to 4 in the afternoon. Is that in here as well? Okay. So 7 to 8 in the morning here, and then 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the Samadhi Mandir, which is another smaller hall that's just opposite this. So whether you are staying in the ashram or not staying in the ashram, you are welcome to join us for the yoga classes as well. They're a general class, so whatever level you are, you will be most welcome. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. I look forward to being together with you tomorrow. A beautiful day to our family joining us from all over the world through the gifts of technology. And so much love to you all.